Hey everyone, and welcome to Cotswold's Easter camping stargazing session with me, Huw James. As well as being an adventurer, I'm also a fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society. Been doing astronomy for a long time now, so thought we'd come out into the back garden and do a bit of nighttime stargazing from your backyard and see what we can see. I can already see there's a bunch of stuff out tonight. Venus over in that direction, the Big Dipper right above us, and a few other constellations, and then right behind us over there, a nice big full moon. It's actually a super moon at the moment. So when you go out into your back garden, things that you might want to do for stargazing is obviously turn the lights off. I'm going to leave these on so you guys can see me, obviously, but turn those off and leave them for about 20 minutes so your eyes can adjust to the dark. It takes about 20 minutes for your eyes to get really well adjusted, and you can see lots more information in the skies. Other things you might need as well as things like a compass. I know that from my back garden, north is that direction. It's because I'm always kind of looking for it. I'm always setting these telescopes up to look north first, and then we find our way around the night sky from there. But a compass, even one on your phone, is really good. So you can find north, and then you know where north, south, east, and west are. You know things that rise in the east, over there. You know things set in the west, over there. You know the North Star is going to be that way. And we'll talk about that a bit more in a sec. Another really good thing that you can find on your iPad or your phone is a dark sky app. And this tells you where the darkest skies are around by you, or how dark it is from your back garden, right? So let's dive into it quick, and we'll be able to see this dark sky app sees all around the UK. The darker bits are obviously the darker bits, but the lighter bits are the light bits. So if it goes up into red and into white, that means there's a lot of light pollution in your area. If it goes down into the blues and blacks, that means that you've got a really dark skies around your area. So it's a really good app to finding out just how dark your skies are. I mean, we can kind of see from being in our back gardens anyway, but it's good to find out after we can get back outside again. We can find out where the dark skies are in our areas, and we can go there. Another one, which is kind of made my 4 years of university in astronomy and space science irrelevant, is a stargazing app. And there's a bunch out there, but this is one I use, so let's dive into it. This is one called Starwalk. And Starwalk, you can move, you can pin it to your location, so you can see the night sky from your location. You can move on in time and see what it's like tonight or tomorrow night or the next night. You can also kind of zoom in on different constellations and stars and planets and moons and whatnot. We'll use this a little bit later on when we're looking at constellations. But Starwalk is a great little app, and there's a load of free ones out there as well. One thing that you might want to get is, if you have them already in the house, is binoculars or a small telescope. If you've got a spotting scope or a pair of these for looking at wildlife, looking at birds and whatnot, these can be really good. And for a lot of astronomy, binoculars are actually better than telescopes like this, because sometimes these are just overpowered. You can't quite see the detail in the same way you can if you zoom out a little bit and take in the whole picture. You can see a lot, including little clusters of stars and things like that, and the moon. It's just a little bit better sometimes just to have those binoculars. So what's in the sky tonight? The sun at the moment is setting about 8 o'clock, and it's dark by about 9:30, 10 o'clock-ish. So once it gets to that point, we're heading from winter into summer. So we're losing a lot of the winter constellations like Orion, and we're gaining a lot of summer constellations. So when we look at our constellations, we can be looking at things like Cygnus and the Summer Triangle, and we're heading back into the warmer kind of months now that it's easier to stargaze on. So we've got a great number of constellations out. There's always a certain number out in the northern hemisphere. They're called circumpolar constellations because they're always out. The whole night sky seems to revolve around one star, which for me at the moment is just up there. It's called the North Star. And ones that are really close to it, including like the Big Dipper, will stay really close and always be up. So it'll always be visible all year round. Other constellations that sit on the horizon, they might not be up all year round. They may be winter constellations or summer constellations. So we have different types of stars at the moment. We've got Venus out right now. We've got a big moon in the morning at sunrise. Just before the sun rises, we've actually got Jupiter, Saturn and Mars all coming up just before the sun rises. Good night, buddy. Just for the sunrises, you'll be able to see those 3 planets. As the sun sets tonight, the only ones we've got out at the moment is Venus. But a good bunch of things to have out looking at the sky right now. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's not many International Space Station passes. It's actually one of the brightest things in the night sky when it does pass. And another good app, in fact, I'll pop into it now, it's called GoSatWatch. And this is GoSatWatch. It shows you when you can expect from your location to see the International Space Station going across. Nothing for a while. It passes or travels at about 5 miles a second or 17,000 miles an hour. So it's pretty quick as it gets through the sky. They see a sunrise every 92 minutes up on the space station. But when it moves across the sky, it moves pretty quick, but it's super bright. So you can always tell that that's it. It's not out at the moment, but what you will see is, if you go out and look up into the night sky, is a bunch of different satellites. Normally you can see about 7 an hour on average if you just sat there looking up, because there's a lot out moving their way around the planet. So if there's a little thing that looks like a star but it's moving pretty quick, that's almost certainly a satellite. So of the objects we can see in the night sky at the moment, we can, in the darkest of skies, we can see around about 5,000 stars and different objects, all of which are in our galaxy being the Milky Way. One that you can see outside our Milky Way is called the Andromeda Galaxy, which is just dipping below the horizon at the moment, but the rest of it is just within our galaxy. We'll get onto the Milky Way in a bit as well. There's one good thing to really look out for when you're out looking around the night sky. I can see one over there at the moment. In fact, this one just up here, Arcturus, is a really good version of it as well. There's a bunch of different stars that have different colours. So stars are either white and blue hot, or they're a little bit cooler and they are red, or somewhere in between. Our sun is super average. It's like right smack bang in the middle. It's about halfway through its life cycle, 5 billion years, and it's got about 5 billion years left to go. But it's a yellow, medium-sized star that's just average. We like it though. But then you get nice big white ones like Rigel over that way, which is in Orion. What else have we got up here? Got a bunch of different ones. The red ones, like Arcturus up there, we'll get into these when we go into our constellation app. But looking at the different colours, there's one up there too. Looking at the different colours of stars is a really good way to train your eye to finding your way around the night sky. And we'll get into finding our way around the night sky right now, actually. So one of the best ways to kind of go out and look at the night sky is having a big chair or something, like a lounge chair to lie back and look at, especially when there's meteor showers. It's fantastic for that. But you can kind of find different constellations that are well known, that are road markers around the night sky. So one of the best ones, and one I always start with, is the Big Dipper, which at the moment is straight up above my head. So that points to a nice big red star called Arcturus. It also points to the North Star. It also points through to another constellation called Cepheus, which is a cool story, which I'll tell you in a second. So we can use different constellations as road markers as we find our way around the night sky. So let's jump into my Starwalk app, and I'll show you a little bit around the night sky and constellations to look out for when you go out. Okay, so we're into Starwalk. That's actually the exact same view as you had just now with the moon behind me. That's down in the south, so we were looking south just then, or you were anyway. I was looking the other way, which is north, just up here. And the constellation I want to start off with is that road marker, that big bear. There's the little bear just there, but we want the big bear up there. And Ursa Major is actually a great constellation because it has an asterism built into it. An asterism is just a more well-known group of stars. And that group of stars is the ones that you can kind of see in the center there. That square or rectangle with a few coming down from that. That's the Big Dipper, or the saucepan, as we call it in Wales. They call it a kite over in Scandinavia, or a cart. There's a bunch of different names for it. And weirdly, everyone seems to have a name for that group of stars. It's really well known because it's so prominent up there in the night sky. But what we can do is we can take these two stars, which are called Merak and Dubhe, and these two stars and take the distance between them and travel across a few times to this constellation here, which is the Little Bear, to this star, which is Polaris. And Polaris is the North Star. And the North Star is a great star to know, because if you take a straight line down from that star there, you end up looking north. So it's a great way to find your way north, and then, because you know the opposite direction is south, you've got east and west as well. So if you can find that star, Polaris, it's not the brightest star in the night sky, but it is, for me, the most special, because if you stood on the North Pole and looked straight in the sky, that's the star that you would see. It's the one that all the other stars seem to revolve around. And the story of those two bears is that they are actually mother and son. So Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Ursa Major used to be a woman that Zeus came down from the heavens to have his way with, and then they ended up having a son together. Zeus's wife Hera really didn't like that kind of thing, so ended up coming down to Earth to kill Ursa Major, but Zeus intervened, turned her into a bear, sent her out into the forest. The son then grew up and became a great hunter, went out into the forest to shoot some bears, and came across this bear, drew back his bow and went to shoot it, didn't know it was his mother. Zeus intervened, turned him into a bear, took them both by the tails, swung them around, stretched their tails out and threw into the sky. So these constellations sit up there in the night sky and are a mother and son that were thrown into the heavens by Zeus. So if you take that panhandle around the other way, you can go all the way down back to Arcturus. That star I showed you is right next to that moon, which is in the constellation of Bootes or the Shepherd. And we're going to have a look at going off the other direction. So from Miracandoubei, past Polaris, and actually out the other side to a group of constellations over here called Cepheus and Cassiopeia. And Cepheus and Cassiopeia used to be the king and queen of Ethiopia. They had a daughter called Andromeda. They loved her so much that they used to brag that she was the most beautiful thing in the world, even more beautiful than the sea nymphs. And Poseidon got really annoyed at that, and actually sent a sea monster, Cetus, which is also a constellation in the night sky, it'll be just below the horizon at the moment, so sent Cetus out to destroy Ethiopia. Cepheus and Cassiopeia went out to consult the oracles and find out if there was anything that they could possibly do to save Ethiopia from getting ruined by the sea monster. And they said, there is something you can do, but it involves chaining your daughter to the rocks just off the coast and giving her as penance, as a sacrifice to the sea monster. And this is Andromeda, just dipping below the horizon. If I roll time back a bit, you see her pop her head up above the horizon again. So Andromeda was chained to the rocks off the coast of Ethiopia as the sea monster Cetus came in. But this person, Perseus, was on his way back from killing the Gorgon Medusa, this Medusa's head with all the snakes on it. He was flying back on his winged horse Pegasus, which is just below there, right under the water. And as they were flying back, they saw Andromeda, and they flew down and said to Cassiopeia and Cepheus, if I save your daughter, could I have her hand in marriage? They obviously said, yes, you have to kill the sea monster as well. So went down to the rocks, and just as the sea monster was about to eat Andromeda, he held the Gorgon Medusa's head high above his head, turned the sea monster to stone, and the sea monster sank to the bottom of the ocean, and Andromeda and Perseus lived happily ever after. There's a bunch of different constellations up there in the night sky. They're all linked together with just a story, right? So that happens a lot. All these constellations that we have here are all Greek mythology constellations, like Perseus, Andromeda, Cassiopeia, Cepheus. But that's like 5 or 6 different constellations all linked with one story. So again, another great way of finding your way around the night sky. So they're always really good to find when you're out. Try and find those patterns in the sky, and even make your own. You can go out and you can make your own patterns. You can. We are pattern making people, so we'll go out and we'll find our own patterns in the night sky. It's good to know these because you can find your way around the night sky by using them. It's hard sometimes to definitely find those constellations. Some of them you need a bit of imagination. Some of them aren't really that bright. But there are things in the night sky that always catch your attention. International Space Station is one of them. Venus is one of them. Jupiter, Saturn are all there because they're so close to us. But that moon's also another one. We've got a supermoon at the moment. It's nice and big. It's at its closest approach to Earth that it will be all year. It'll be furthest away in October. So it does look a little bit bigger. Not loads, but a little bit. But it's a daytime object, so you can actually see it in the day as well as the night. And the reason I said binoculars are actually really, really good and sometimes better than this is because looking at the moon through a telescope really hurts your eyes, like seriously hurts your eyes, after about 10 seconds. So, because it reflects about 6 or 7% of the sun's light. It does not give off any of its own light, just reflects it from the sun back down to Earth. So when we see it as full, the sun is on the opposite side of the Earth to where the moon is. Kind of makes sense. We get different types of moon depending on where it is in the night sky and where it is relative to the sun, right? So this is our moon for now. And what you might be able to see is that if the sun is over there, it has all this falling on it, but you can only see about half of it. So it's about a half a lit up moon. This side is a bit dark, right? And we see that as the moon now goes into its waning phase, starts to get smaller and smaller. It'll go from being really bright to darker and darker and darker until it gets to a point where you can't see anything at all. And as it rotates around the Earth, or as it orbits the Earth, it actually rotates at the same speed. So we always see the same face of the moon. So that's why we say it has a dark side and then a light side as well. So the moon's actually got a really great history. About 4.5 billion years ago, when the Earth was being formed, about 60 million years after the Earth formed, a big planet, a Mars-sized planet, hit the Earth, and all that rock kind of coalesced back together, except for some, which got spun off into orbit around the Earth. It used to be very close to the Earth, and it got further and further away each year. The moon gets further away at a couple of centimeters every single year. So it's actually made of a very similar rock to the rocks here on Earth. And it's actually the 5th largest moon in the entire solar system, and it's the largest moon relative to its own planet, the largest natural satellite to its own planet. And in that early solar system, it was really chaotic, so lots of things hit into each other. Mars-sized planet into Earth, creating the moon is the current theory, but also lots of things hit the Earth and the moon as well. So all over the moon you can see big impact craters. And I want to show you a few of those that are easy to pick out, or a little bit easier to pick out than maybe some of the others, and a few other objects that you can see on the moon. So I'm going to jump into my moon globe, and you'll be able to see what I'm seeing up there. I can point a few features out to you, and a great way of doing this for yourselves is looking at Google Moon. Google Moon is a wonderful app that you can go into. You can look around looking for different features. So let's head into my moon globe, and you can see. Okay, so this is the moon in my moon globe. It's got some great features on it, including craters, highlands, lowlands. So the first one I'll show you is the Tycho crater. Depending on the size of the thing that hit the moon, it makes bigger and smaller craters. Seems kind of obvious. But also from that crater you get these rays that spread out. And these rays will be the underlying rock under the surface, getting spread out, different minerals and whatnot, all getting spread out over the moon's surface. So Tycho crater is one of the biggest craters and really obvious to see there on the moon, especially in a pair of binoculars. The other big crater that's really good to find is Copernicus, right there. And then the lowlands, the darker patches, are actually old lava flows from about 3.5 billion years ago. When there's lots of impacts, those impacts then would create lava flows because it would heat the rock up from the big impacts, and they would create these lowlands. And the most famous one of those is the Sea of Tranquility. And you'll know that from the Apollo 11 mission, the first people on the moon. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin landed on the Sea of Tranquility. And they landed there in the lowlands, did their mission, and then headed out. A bunch of other Apollo missions also went up. In Apollo 12, no Apollo 13, quite famously didn't make it, but they made it back safe, which was great. Spoilers for the film. Apollo 14, 15, 16, and 17. 12 people stood on the moon altogether. We haven't been back since 1972. But those Apollo landing sites will be there on Google Moon, so have a look for those and see if you can spot them on the moon itself as well. Now my other favourite lowlands is the Sea of Rain. And it's because in this particular spot, if you took the UK, the size of the UK relative to this Sea of Rain, it actually fits almost perfectly inside it. So that gives you really a sense of scale when you're looking at the moon, of how big it is compared to Earth itself. And then right on the bottom of the Sea of Rain then is actually some of the best highlands, including Montes Apenninus, which is a mountain chain right there just underneath the Sea of Rain. And that actually has the mountain in it that's the largest mountain on the moon. It's a mountain called Mons Huygens, and it's about 4.7 kilometers high. So getting up there with like the big alpine ranges out in France and Switzerland. So 4.7 kilometer mountain, the largest one on the moon. And these are great features to look for with the naked eye or a pair of binoculars, but especially with something like a telescope, right? It doesn't need to be an expensive telescope or an expensive camera. So I've got a little adapter here that adapts my smartphone to this itself. So I put that on there. Let's move that around. And I'm going to move this so we can see the moon, and I'm going to record through this phone to see what we can see. Okay, here we go. There we go. So we can see there, right on the bottom, got a bunch of lowlands, including the Sea of Tranquility. And there in the middle, we've got the Sea of Rain, and just in the center there, we've got that mountain range with Mons Huygens in it, and then right at the top we've got Tycho, that big crater, and Copernicus, that crater there. And if I leave this steady for a second, you can kind of see how fast the Earth spins and how fast the moon moves. So that's just a few of the things that you can see on your Easter camping with Cotswold Outdoor. When you come out to your backyard, turn those lights off and leave them for 20 minutes before you start stargazing. It'll give your eyes time to adjust. And whenever you come out, whether it's in the next few days and the next week, things might change. The moon comes up later, different planets are in the sky, we get meteor showers, we get International Space Station passes, lots of different things happen, especially when we go from season to season. So we're heading into the summer season now, which is really good for the Milky Way. We see more towards the core of the Milky Way. So check that dark sky app when we're allowed out again into the wider world. Hopefully you can go to some of those places and see the Milky Way and see these patterns in the night sky, find your way around, take a better look at the moon. And if you want to work with your kids on that, I run Anti-Risk Education, and we're just putting out in May a brand new project which is called Anti-Risk at Home, and it'll be starting with a space week, all about the moon, the solar system, the constellation and whatnot, running for 4 months, all about learning from home. So it's got experiments with it, it's got art projects and English projects and curriculum links and whatnot. So have a look there as well on www.antirus.org, ANTURUS, and I'll see you next time.